Do you ever feel like you're living life on autopilot? Doing what's expected, saying what sounds right, following a script everyone else seems to approve of? You play the part, you wear the smile, but beneath it all, there's that quiet, aching question. Who am I really when the world stops watching? We live in an age of constant measurement. Every word, post, and idea can be judged, ranked, or liked. Yet the more connected we become, the less we hear our own voice. Beneath all the noise lies a silent sickness, the erosion of confidence and identity. We call it self-doubt. Nearly 2 centuries ago, one man saw this epidemic before it existed. His name was Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he offered a cure more powerful than any quick-fix quote or morning affirmation. He called it self-reliance, a philosophy that turns the search for approval into the practice of authenticity. Picture America in the 1840s. Industry rising, cities swelling, ambition everywhere. Society worshipped respectability. People chased progress, reputation, and the comfort of belonging. Emerson watched this fever for conformity and sensed the danger underneath, a generation forgetting how to think for itself. He wrote, "Society everywhere is in conspiracy against the manhood of every one of its members." By manhood, he meant integrity, the strength of the individual soul before it bends to opinion or fear. He warned that comfort often disguises captivity, and imitation can feel safer than originality. But each time we trade our own judgment for the crowd's approval, something inside us weakens. Fast forward to today. The conspiracy Emerson described no longer lives in drawing rooms. It lives in algorithms, comment sections, and performance metrics. We compare, adjust, and edit ourselves to fit invisible expectations. The result? A world full of capable people afraid to trust themselves. Self-doubt isn't a lack of ability, it's the loss of self-trust. And that's the first truth Emerson forces us to face. Confidence doesn't come from validation, it comes from alignment. Over the next 5 lessons, we'll explore the pillars of Emerson's cure. 1. Trust thyself, reconnecting with intuition and inner authority. 2. Nonconformity, the courage to live your truth even when misunderstood. 3. Solitude and society, how to stay centered while walking among others. 4. Modern application, how to turn self-doubt into a signal, not a sentence. 5. Integration and daily practice, transforming philosophy into habit. Because real confidence isn't loud or flawless, it's quiet, honest, and rooted. It begins the moment you decide to listen inward rather than outward. So take a breath. Let's rediscover the voice that was yours before the world taught you to question it. Lesson 1. Trust thyself. Picture yourself waking before dawn. The city is still asleep. Outside the window, the world holds its breath between darkness and light. There is no noise, no comparison, no expectation. Just you and a quiet pulse of certainty that often goes unnoticed. That stillness is the beginning of self-trust. Emerson called this the aboriginal self, the original voice within that existed before fear or imitation. He urged, "Trust thyself, every heart vibrates to that iron string." These weren't poetic ornaments, they were marching orders for the soul. He believed peace begins where self-distrust ends. Trusting yourself doesn't mean assuming you're always right. It means believing that your inner nature is fundamentally reliable. Every intuition, every gut feeling is a spark of the divine whispering through you. We've been trained to look outward for wisdom. Teachers, statistics, influencers, while the truest compass waits within. Modern psychology quietly agrees. Studies on intuition show that our subconscious processes information far faster than our analytical mind. What we call a gut feeling is often the brain recognizing patterns too complex to articulate. It's not magic, it's condensed experience. Yet Emerson went even deeper. Intuition isn't just intellect, it's connection. When you trust that voice, you align with the same intelligence that shaped the world itself. So why do we ignore it? Because doubt is loud and intuition is quiet. The world rewards those who follow trends, not those who pause to listen. We mistake hesitation for weakness when it may be guidance in disguise. To rebuild self-trust, we must reclaim silence. Spend 10 minutes a day with no music, no scrolling, no conversation. Walk or sit in stillness and notice the first clear thought that surfaces. Write it down before logic interrupts. That simple act teaches the mind to respect its own signal. Over time, the voice grows stronger. Each time you follow an inner nudge and it proves right, confidence compounds. You begin to realize that wisdom isn't something to acquire, it's something to uncover. When others doubt your direction, remember Emerson's warning. The man is relieved when he has put his heart into his work and done his best. But what he has said or done otherwise shall give him no peace. Peace is your test. If your choice brings quiet strength rather than anxious noise, you're aligned. Mini reflection. What truth have you postponed because you feared its consequence? Write it. Read it aloud. Notice how your body reacts, tension or relief. The body often knows before the mind admits. Self-trust is not arrogance, it's humility before your own design, the recognition that you were created with a purpose and equipped with the guidance to fulfill it. When you stop begging the world for permission to be who you already are, confidence stops being performance and becomes presence. That's the first step in Emerson's cure. Because when you trust yourself, self-doubt loses its anchor. You no longer chase certainty, you live from conviction. Lesson 2. Nonconformity. Imagine standing in a crowd where everyone faces the same direction, nodding in rhythm to the same ideas. Then, somewhere inside, a quiet thought rises. This isn't true for me. That moment, when you choose authenticity over agreement, is the birth of self-reliance in action. Emerson called it nonconformity, and to him it was not rebellion, but moral necessity. He wrote, "Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist." In modern language, whoever wants to live freely must learn to think independently. Nonconformity isn't about rejecting others, it's about refusing to betray yourself. We live in a time when conformity hides behind progress. Social validation systems encourage sameness, trending opinions, predictable behavior, safe originality. The reward is comfort, the approval of the crowd. The price is authenticity. Every time you silence your truth to keep peace, you trade freedom for belonging. Emerson warned, for nonconformity, the world whips you with its displeasure. Yet he also promised that to be great is to be misunderstood. Every thinker who reshaped history, Galileo, Socrates, Rosa Parks, Mandela, stood alone first. Their courage was not defiance, but alignment with truth. So, expect misunderstanding. When you begin to live authentically, people may question you. They might call you inconsistent, difficult, or proud. Emerson's answer was simple: growth requires contradiction. A foolish consistency, he said, is the hobgoblin of little minds. True integrity isn't rigid, it evolves. Wisdom means having the courage to update your truth when life expands your understanding. Here's the paradox. Society often admires originality, but punishes it in real time. Only later, when the crowd is safe, does it celebrate what once threatened it. That's why self-trust must precede acceptance. You can't wait for validation before choosing authenticity. Practical reflection. Next time you feel pressured to agree, pause before speaking. Instead of polite silence, try, "I see that differently." This small phrase trains your mind to value honesty over harmony. Another exercise. Write down every should that controls your life. I should want this job. I should go to that event. I should chase that status. Then ask, is this truly my desire or a borrowed expectation? Each honest answer returns a piece of your freedom. Nonconformity doesn't mean arrogance. It means loyalty to the integrity of your perception. You can respect others' views while standing firm in your own. The key is sweetness, strength without hostility, conviction without contempt. Emerson wrote, "It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who, in the midst of the crowd, keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." That's the heart of this lesson. You don't need to isolate yourself to be free. You need to stay centered while surrounded. The ability to remain inwardly independent while outwardly connected is emotional mastery. Mini takeaway. When you walk your path and others misunderstand, remember, it's confirmation that you've stopped performing and started living. Lesson 3. Solitude and Society. Picture yourself walking through a crowded city street. Horns blare, lights flash, voices blur into a single wall of sound. Yet somewhere deep inside, there's a calm space, untouched by the noise. A still point that doesn't move even as the world spins. Emerson believed that place was sacred. He called it the strength of solitude, not the loneliness of withdrawal, but the clarity of communion with your own soul. He wrote, "It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who, in the midst of the crowd, keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." For Emerson, solitude wasn't escape, it was preparation, the inner workshop where integrity is forged before it's tested in public. Modern life has almost erased that workshop. We carry the crowd in our pockets, checking it every few minutes for approval. Even our quiet moments are filled with borrowed noise. And yet, without solitude, there can be no self-knowledge. Without silence, there can be no strength. Solitude is where you meet yourself again. It's the pause between reactions, the breath before decision, the mirror where your motives become visible. Emerson would walk alone through the woods of Concord to listen for what he called the currents of the universal being. In those moments, he wasn't running from humanity. He was returning to authenticity. To practice solitude today, you don't need a forest, only intention. Try beginning each day with 5 minutes of quiet before screens, before news, before demands. Breathe. Ask, what do I truly need today? That single act can reset the tone of an entire day. But solitude is only half the equation. The other half is society, the arena where your principles are tested and refined. It's easy to hold ideals when no one challenges them. The real test is maintaining integrity when others push back. Emerson knew that character grows through friction. Solitude gives you the clarity, society gives you the opportunity to prove it. Every conversation, every disagreement is a chance to practice what you believe. The goal isn't to win arguments, it's to remain authentic while engaged. The mature mind doesn't hide from people, it learns to stay peaceful among them. Practical reflection. Create rhythm between solitude and society. Morning stillness, daytime engagement, evening reflection. Solitude is the inhale, society is the exhale. Both are necessary for balance. Mini takeaway. Solitude isn't separation, it's strength. Society isn't distraction, it's the proving ground of integrity. Together, they form the complete circle of self-reliance. Lesson 4. Modern application and self-doubt as signal. 2 centuries after Emerson, the world has changed in every visible way, yet the same invisible struggle remains. We've replaced village gossip with social media metrics, but the pressure is identical. Fit in, stay safe, be approved. Emerson would call this the modern disguise of the ancient disease, self-doubt. But what if doubt isn't the enemy? What if it's the alarm bell of a deeper truth trying to break through? Emerson believed that self-doubt is often evidence of your inner self still alive, fighting to be heard. Doubt, he might say, is the soul reminding you that you are drifting away from your own center. Every time you feel that uneasy tension before agreeing to something you don't believe in, every moment of hesitation before speaking your truth, that discomfort is your integrity resisting compromise. The cure isn't to silence the doubt, it's to listen to what it's trying to say. Modern psychology echoes this. Cognitive dissonance, the stress felt when your actions contradict your values, is the mind's way of calling for alignment. When your external life drifts too far from your internal truth, anxiety grows. The message is simple: come back home to yourself. So how do we transform self-doubt from poison into teacher? By reframing it. When doubt arises, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What part of me am I ignoring?" That single shift turns self-doubt into self-inquiry. Emerson's life proved this principle. When his peers urged him to stay a minister and preach convention, he walked away from the pulpit to follow conscience. He didn't do it out of rebellion, but out of integrity. He refused to speak what he didn't believe. That decision cost him status, but gave him peace. A trade, he would say, was always worth making. Practical exercise. At the end of each day, write down one moment when you felt the pull to conform, when you said yes out of habit, or stayed silent out of fear. Then write the truth you wish you'd spoken. You don't need to act on it yet. The goal is simply to start hearing yourself again. With time, this awareness becomes courage. The moment you honor your truth in small ways, you begin to heal the fracture between who you are and who you pretend to be. Self-trust returns, anxiety eases, and the voice of intuition becomes clear again. Mini reflection. You are not broken. You are surrounded by noise that teaches you to forget yourself. Self-doubt isn't weakness, it's information. It's your inner compass trying to redirect you toward authenticity. If this message is resonating, if you've ever felt that quiet conflict between who you are and who you think you should be, take a moment to subscribe. Limitless Mindset is here to help you rebuild confidence from the inside out, one truth at a time. Lesson 5. Integration and daily practice. Wisdom only becomes power when it becomes practice. Emerson didn't want admirers, he wanted doers, people willing to live truth, not merely agree with it. Philosophy, he insisted, isn't something you recite, it's something you embody. Real self-reliance happens in the ordinary minutes of life, in the way you speak, choose, listen, and stand by yourself when nobody else understands. So, how do we make self-reliance a daily lifestyle instead of a beautiful idea we forget after the inspiration fades? It begins with small acts of inner loyalty. Not dramatic gestures, not abandoning society or burning every bridge that feels restrictive. Real change starts in the quietest decisions, the ones nobody sees but you. When you wake up and ask yourself, what is truly mine to do today? What matters to my soul, not my image? What choice honors who I really am? These questions are simple, but they rearrange your inner universe. The 3 daily practices. 1. Daily alignment check. Each morning, before the world's noise arrives, sit in silence for 2 minutes. One question only. What do I know is true for me today? You don't need a perfect answer. You just need the honesty to ask. 2. Micro acts of courage. Every day, do one tiny thing that honors your inner voice, even if it defies expectation. It could be saying no politely, sharing an honest opinion, or pursuing a project no one else sees value in yet. Courage compounds. Integrity compounds. Peace compounds. 3. Truth before sleep. Each night, write one sentence completing this prompt. Today, I honored my true self by... If you can finish that sentence honestly, you are winning. If some days you can't, beautiful. Awareness is the turning point. Every time you name the gap between who you are and how you acted, you shrink it. You don't need perfection to evolve. You need presence. Why daily practice matters. Self-trust is like a muscle. It grows when used. With every act of inner loyalty, doubt loses another inch. Eventually, it stops being your narrator and becomes merely background noise. And then one day, without realizing it happened, you look back and realize you stopped needing permission. You stopped performing. You stopped shrinking to fit in spaces unworthy of your soul. You became whole again. Mini takeaway: don't wait for some grand turning point. Tiny truths practiced daily create unshakable power. Summary: the path back to yourself. Let's breathe everything in. Emerson didn't give us motivation. He gave us liberation. His cure for self-doubt was not louder confidence, it was deeper alignment. The pillars. Trust thyself. Your intuition is not a whisper of fear. It is a compass of truth. Nonconformity. Authenticity requires courage. When you stand alone, you stand with yourself. Solitude and society. Strength comes from returning to your soul, then re-entering the world rooted and calm. Self-doubt as signal. Doubt does not mean weakness, it means misalignment. Listen to what hurts and follow what feels honest. Daily integration. Self-reliance is not a philosophy, it is a practice. A breath-by-breath remembering of who you are. Emerson's message was never complicated, just forgotten. Your power isn't out there in approval, applause, or agreement. It is already inside you, waiting to be obeyed. Final reflection: the return to truth. There is a moment in every life when silence feels louder than applause and authenticity becomes more important than acceptance. That moment is the beginning of freedom. Self-reliance isn't rebellion, it's reverence for the truth inside you. You were born with intuition, born with conviction, born with a voice the world could not manufacture or destroy. The only thing that ever clouded that truth was noise, other people's expectations, other people's fears, the endless performance of proving instead of being. Today, you remember. You do not need to chase worth. You only need to practice it. You do not need to prove value. You need to live it. You do not need to ask permission. You already are enough to begin. Self-doubt doesn't vanish in one breakthrough. It dissolves through one truthful step, repeated again and again, until confidence becomes your nature, not your effort. Take one quiet breath. This is the moment you return to yourself. If this journey opened a door for you, if you felt something shift, even slightly, subscribe for more. Limitless Mindset is here to help you build quiet strength, grounded confidence, and a life led from the inside out. And before you go, remember, nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles. If you're ready to practice that kind of freedom every day, join us. Subscribe, come back tomorrow, and keep becoming who you already are.